My name is Tefo Mohapi. I come from a company called iAfrican. I'm going to talk to you about how to prepare for your pitch. This is going to be a general pitch guide, not just only on GeoJosie, but just to give you some pointers on the key elements of your pitch. I just thought quickly let you know why I think you should listen to me. We recently partnered with Wits University and the United Nations to build a solution called xenowatch.org. Xenowatch is about monitoring xenophobic violence across South Africa. How that works is we allow foreign nationals free SMS into the system where they can report incidents, and then we map it onto our platform in the back end. There's also emergency response linked to that, etc., and Wits University does some analysis based on that as well. It also helps with, on the analytics side, you can drill in on the map. You can see which areas are prone to xenophobic violence, and you can also see a timeline of what precipitates xenophobic violence. A very important, I think, Marcel mentioned it in her presentation. Very important part of a pitch is explaining the problem or defining it. A lot of the time people go out and develop solutions that don't have a problem. So you think, oh, this is a great idea, I'm gonna create this, but it's not really addressing any problem out there. So I'm gonna walk you through, as I explain this, through an example of a pitch, a very good company called Airbnb, and how they pitched their solution initially to investors at the very early days. So define and explain the problem. What is the problem that you're addressing with your mapping solution or mapping app? And to define a problem, you obviously need to speak to people on the ground or to people who you think are going to use that product. So there needs to be a bit of research on your side. And this is not research sitting behind a computer on the web. You probably need to go out to a couple of potential users in the area that you hope the solution will be used, and just find out what the key issues are, what the key problems are. So to give you an example, how Airbnb explained this in the early days when they were still called Air Bed and Breakfast. They realized that price is a key issue in terms of bookings. Hotels are expensive, etc. There's no easy way to book hotels. It's not centralized. Accommodation is not centralized across the world, or even just in San Francisco itself. It wasn't centralized at the time. There's variety of platforms, and individuals couldn't even list their own apartments, rooms, etc. So they defined their problem after speaking to people or living in San Francisco. So the first part is very key: define the problem and try and understand it. Obviously, once you understand the problem, you can say, okay, I think I know, I've got an idea, a mapping solution, or an idea of how to address this problem. Then you briefly, before developing it, come up with a sort of a prototype on paper, on a system. You haven't gone into details yet. This is a key part as well. Develop that solution and then go back to those people you spoke to when you were trying to define the problem and say, if I built this, just giving them mock-ups or screenshots or something like that, and say, if I built this, would you use it? Does this address your pain point? That's again, you need this constant feedback with your potential users to say, okay, you explained to me what the problem is. I've now gone back and looked at certain solutions we can build. Here's a potential solution. Would you use it? And then interact with them that way. Those first two processes then give you market validation. And this is another key part of when you pitch. So you're going to pitch on the final day to a couple of judges, and they would want to see, has this thing been validated? The city will want to see, have you really gone out there and validated this with the city's citizens? What feedback did you get? Did they say they might use this, or do you know that they might use this? Is this really a problem? Then that's where you come up with your numbers to say, we spoke to this many people, or we researched this many people, X amount said this, so many have already pre-signed up or pre-ordered or whatever it is you use for validation. And that gives you, I think, more bonus points when you're pitching than your actual solution. to say that we validated this with the market. Then only then, after you've defined the problem, validated it, sort of done a mock-up, can you go into the details of your product. Not the typical other way around where you start by building your product and spending money, spending energy, and going into the details of the product because you really believe it's going to work. But only after you've spoken to your customers, you've defined the problem, you've come up with a potential solution, do you then go and develop what Airbnb also did later on, is come up with a more detailed product to say, we validated the market, we've spoken to the people, they like the potential solution that we might be putting out. Now we can go in and say, let's develop this in more detail. Then that's where you can go into detail with the judges and show them the actual mechanics of your mapping solutions in terms of how it uses the data sets, how it maps, etc., etc. Very key, and you'll see in brackets there included also a very key part. If your solution is going to be a profit-making solution, you need to understand how will you make money. But sometimes people think that if it's not a profit-making solution and it's an NGO or NPO, they don't need to think about the money part, but you do, because there are costs involved. So you also need to explain or elaborate on how you believe you'll be able to sustain this project, even if it's a non-profit app or map-based solution. Airbnb did the same because they're a profit-making. Because they had validated, again, once you validated with customers, projecting and showing how you're going to make money makes it a little bit easier because you know that people will use it. You sort of know, because it's Joburg, how big the catchment area of your typical users will be. Then you can sort of project how you can generate income. Or if it's a non-profit, you can sort of project which partners you'll be bringing on to help you fund. Also, feel free to stop and ask if you've got any questions. Again, very key. Sometimes people believe, especially on internet or app-based businesses, that their idea is brand new, that no one else is doing this, especially when they pitch. But if you think about the process I just explained, there's definitely a problem that people are experiencing. And when there's a problem, people are already solving that problem in one way or another currently, before your solution came about. So when you think of competition and when you pitch, don't just think about what looks similar to my solution, but think of it from a point of view of how are people currently solving the solution? And those are your competitor or competing services or products. So think about it from currently this is the problem, how are people solving it currently? And then list those ways that people are currently solving it. Then once you've done that, the final part is you can explain what your advantages or the advantages of your product or service over the current solutions. And that's it from our side.